Hey everyone, welcome to the That's Allowed podcast. This is the last episode of season 4. I can't believe it. 2020 hindsight, it has been such an amazing journey. Today, we are so lucky to have Alex Murphy. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hello. Hey, everybody. I'm Alex Murphy. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I am a co-founder and chief academic officer of OnTrack Coaches, which is an academic coaching company for middle schoolers, high schoolers, and college kids.
And we got to work together this summer on an amazing thing called Studio B. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that?
Oh my God, Studio B was a lot of fun.
Sure
I should
was.
just come up front and say we lost a lot of money, but boy, was it worth it. We we took a bath, but we learned so much good stuff. A lot of it from you. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot from you in the process of when you're really building something together and working on it from basically just a concept into reality, and then you have to figure out how to get it so that kids can take it and then actually learn, and it changes the way they operate. That takes a lot, and so. Studio B was started just as this idea that we're an academic company. The summer's coming up. Kids like YouTube. So let's teach them how to make cool YouTube videos. And they like podcasts. Let's teach them how to make podcasts. And so we started from there. And as we started to build it, what we realized is that there's a much bigger opportunity. We don't have to just stop at that. And so we sort of used this studio to help kids, learn how to become really interesting storytellers. And we took it a little bit deeper and decided to kind of make it an opportunity for them to explore their purpose in life. Maybe they didn't leave with a sense that, they had their lifelong purpose mapped out for them, but they definitely, in the process of creating these YouTube videos with us, we met with them for 6 weeks. They made these videos, and then they started to learn what they actually like, what actually energizes them, what actually engages them. I think some of them started off thinking it was one thing, and realized later that it was something totally different. We were just talking off mic about a mom who emailed us, and her son joined Studio B. He thought he wanted to make a dev vlog. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
I can't believe I had the gall to try to found a YouTube studio, and I don't even know if I'm using the terms correctly. But yeah, so basically he wanted to do that, he thought, and it turns out that he just loves making a game. So he spent the entire time making a board game. He never made a video. Just never got there. But in the process, he learned that that's what he loves, and he loves the creative process. Turns out he loves, this process of trying to create a situation where people can, have fun and compete. And so, yeah, we built that together. We rolled it out. And I think, we learned a lot. The value was not monetary for us. It was what we learned and what, students were able to accomplish and come away from that with.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things for me. I don't think anyone has a purpose, a singular purpose that is the same throughout their lives. I think we have many gifts, and our purpose is to give them to different people at different times in different ways. And so what I loved so much about Studio B and about the whole process, first of all, was taking what I've been doing with my coaching clients and having to teach it to kids really helps you realize what the essence of what you're trying to teach really is.
You said it great. The other day we were talking and you were like, if you think you know something really well, if you can't explain it to a fourth grader, you don't know it as well as you think you do.
You don't know.
If you haven't gotten down to the essence in a way that's articulatable to a young kid, you don't really know it. So yeah, we really had to boil down what we were doing and figure out what's at the heart of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the other thing is, I really feel like what they walked away with, what they said to me that they walked away with, was this confidence now that they can just decide, hey, I want to learn about this thing, and then just go learn about that thing and go teach about that thing and learn as you go. And I think everyone needs to know that if you're curious about something, if you're interested in something, just start learning about it and teaching other people about it, and you'll learn as you go.
It's so true. Man, I wish I had had that lesson when I was a kid. I'll give you a little glimpse into my youth. I was the ultimate perfectionist child. Okay. Second of 4. My parents were 19 and 20 when they got married, and they proceeded to have 4 kids in the next 6 years or something. So my mom was 26 with 4 kids. Right. Wow. So it was a self-sufficient childhood. You could call it. I had to learn, how to operate. and kind of create a structure for that. And I think what that turned into later on was like this feeling that I had to have it perfect every time. And it has to be, and this, we see this all the time with kids in Studio B. We see it with OnTrack coaches and the students that we work with there. They think that it has to be perfect in their brain before they start putting it on paper or on film or wherever. And what ends up happening is that's a paralyzing feeling. I mean, it's very hard to get started if you have the burden of perfection hanging over you. And so like, I remember as a 10th grader, distinctly, my favorite teacher ever, Mr. Friend. He was this cool British guy. He wore suspenders all the time. Like, he kept hinting that he had this secret government job before he taught us, which I'm sure was not true, but, but man, we loved it. And I used to spend like 3 hours on his homework projects, answering like 3 questions, like 3 paragraphs. I spent 3 hours on it because I was like, this has to be perfect. So for kids to realize that they can perfect it while they make it, that it could start bad, it could start actually bad and get better and better. We had the student Gustavo who was talking about like, oh, it's so cringy. And I was like, man, cringe is just one stage in the creative process. He was like, cringe is a stage? I was like, yeah, yes. yeah, absolutely. Anybody who's ever gone back and looked through their middle school yearbook can tell you it's just a stage. It gets better. That blew the roof off for him. Like, and man, I wish somebody had come and told me that, and I was burdening myself with that perfection. It's really cool that I'm in a position now where we can set kids up to learn that in middle school.
Yeah, that growth mindset, just recognizing, yeah, of course it's going to start out bad. You don't know what you're doing. Like,
yeah. There's a great
what learning's for.
Yeah. Ira Glass has this great speech that I heard it and I can't remember where it was. He was talking to some film students, I think. And he was like, if you are looking at what you're producing and you don't like it, that just means you have taste.
Yes.
It will get to the level of your taste. It's a good thing, in other words. And that sticks with me. I mean, that sticks with me all the time. Like, if you look at what you're doing, I feel that way about the business that we're building. Like, I look at it all the time and go like, whoosh, not good enough. And like, that's okay. Like, that's all right. That's a stage.
So this leads me, I think, beautifully into the first question that I usually ask, which is, what story is the world not getting?
Man, I've thought about, you told me ahead of time I was going to get this question. I've thought a lot about it. I think the story that the world's not getting is why it's the story of kids in schools. Mm-hmm. And we can see it. And especially in the pandemic, a lot of parents had school happening in their house for the first time so they could see it. And like there is a deeper story of the interior lives of kids and how school affects that I feel like we don't quite get. We don't quite get it. And I have the great pleasure of having worked with kids my entire career. And I feel like only just now am I starting to get a little glimpse into that. It's a powerful story. And if we could figure it out and really understand it, like we could make some serious transformation to the way we teach kids.
If you were in charge of the educational system, what would it be like?
Dang, I should have taken some drinks before coming on here. That's a big question. Man, if I were in charge, what would it be like? Here's the first thing. I think we would have to all be on the same page. Anybody working in that system would have to be on the same page on 2 really important things. The first one is you cannot control somebody else's behavior. Not just because you don't want to, we literally can't do it.
Yeah.
I am the only person that ultimately gets to decide what I do. You're the only person that ultimately gets to decide what you do. And every student in our system is the only person in the universe that actually gets to decide what they do. That's the number one thing we have a hard time wrapping our heads around. And as a result, like a lot of the students we work with, they are burdened with this incredible pressure. It's pressure from everywhere. And this isn't about blaming. Like I really, I'm not interested in figuring out who's to blame. I think we just have to understand the reality and be really honest about it. Like kids feel this insane pressure from all different parts of their lives of adults trying to control their behavior. In schools, I worked in the public school system for a long time. I've worked in charter schools. I've taught everywhere from 7th to 12th grade. I've taught some college. I've worked with 4th graders and 5th graders and 6th graders. It doesn't change. I've worked in poor neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods. It doesn't change. Adults spend a lot of energy trying to control kids' behaviors so that we can get the right scores on the tests, or we can get the funding from the state, or I can feel, as the adult, like I have some power or something. And it doesn't work. It creates a lot of problems. And then, folks come to us like, can you help my kid? Because the students react against that. So that's the first thing, is we'd have to get on the same page about that. And the second thing is sort of the other side of the coin, which is like the only thing you can give to or receive from another person is information. That's it. I can tell you, that something's important. I can ask you a question and you can ask me a question. I can give you the information. Even feelings, like my emotions are information. If you cussed me out, like you were doing the other day. No, I'm just joking for the listener. That's a joke. Dr. Audrian's never cussed me out. but if you were cussing me out, right, that doesn't actually dictate anything about how I respond. It just gives me more information of what you're doing, information about my own feelings and how I'm, what does that do for me physiologically and emotionally and mentally? That's all information. And then I have the power to choose what to do with that information. If I were, to your original question, if I were running the school system, we would set everything up to help kids at a young age realize just how much power they have over the choices, and realize that what they get from the outside world is just information. And they are ultimately the only one who gets to decide what to do with that information. If we could do that, I'm sure we would have kids who were way more excited to learn. We would have kids who were, had a more success in finding their sense of purpose and like figuring out, what can I contribute? I think it was, oh boy, is it Longfellow who writes the play "Oh Me, Oh Life"? I think it's Longfellow, and he's, why are we here? That life exists, an identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you can contribute a verse. A lot of kids don't understand that they can contribute a verse. They have been told what verse they're supposed to contribute, and they feel like they have to do it because otherwise their parents will disown them or they'll fail out of school. And I'm not making this up. Kids say this to me. I ask them all the time, what would happen if you didn't turn in an assignment? I mean, I asked a kid the other day in coaching, what would happen the other day if you didn't turn in an assignment? If you just blew it off? And he, in about 3 moves, he went from my parents would be mad to I'd be homeless and have a miserable life. He got there so fast. and that tells me, like, yeah, we're, something's off here. Like, and kids don't realize that they have the power. So I think that would be, the curriculum would be set up around that. We would engage kids' curiosity. We would help them ask the questions they want the answers to. We would then help them find the answers and then apply it in their real lives. And there are some attempts to do this, around the school system. There's project-based learning or problem-based learning. It's here and there, but I think it doesn't work because we have fundamentally an external control system set up. Yeah. And so it's like, even all the way up to the federal government, like all the way up to the top and the bottom, it's just like, we got to control each other's behavior so that, because if we don't, the worst thing in the world will happen. There's a lot of fear and anxiety in there. So that's a very long answer, not nearly as long as the answer I could give, but that's the very long answer to your question. And I've conveniently avoided all specifics so nobody can come at me about that. It's great. You see how I did that? I dodged giving any details and laid out big philosophical framework.
Well, it sounds like there's 2 things that I'm hearing here. We really have to respect the autonomy of kids. I mean, humans in general, I think, but especially kids. We really have to respect that they are autonomous and that they are the authority over their own lives. And I think we need to instill that confidence in them too. In addition to just respecting that they have that authority, let them know that they have that authority and really empower them to use that authority to create a life that they love and that they are really excited about living.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's so true. Like, have you ever seen Mr. Rogers' testimony in the Senate in the 60s? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. For the listener, public television is, Congress is considering cutting its funding, right? And so it's a budget hearing in the Senate. The chairman, I can't remember his name, but he's like a famous hard ass. He wants to slash the budget, right? He's ready to do it. And Fred Rogers comes in and single-handedly convinces this guy to not slash the public television budget. And he does it by reading the lyrics of one of the songs that they teach to young kids. And it's so moving. I encourage you to go. I can't recite it from memory. I encourage you to go listen to it. But the lyrics of this song that they teach kids are like, I can stop if I want to. I can stop if I wish. I can stop anytime. And what a great feeling to feel like this and know that the feeling is really mine. To know that there's something deep inside that helps me become what I can. I mean, that's powerful. This really tough senator is like, he's got goosebumps at the end of that. Like, who wouldn't? It's amazing. And I think, like, it's not just, it's like, it's easy to look at that and be skeptical and go like, well, that wouldn't work. That's soft-minded do-goodness or whatever. But it's really the listen, we've given the other way a thorough try, I would
Yeah.
say, for the last, 20 years in education, and even earlier than that. And we've given it a quite thorough try. It's not working. So maybe we try something else.
Well, I mean, I guess the cynic in me feels like, well, it worked really well for what they were trying to do, which was to encourage people to be little automaton workers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who were ready
Mm-hmm.
to accept whatever, obediently accept whatever kind of instructions they're given in life and in work. Um, it was also really effective in getting kids out of the house during the day so that people could work all day long.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what we need to really look at is, what do we actually want our education system to do and provide for humans? And that, I think, is what really fundamentally needs to change. Recognizing that we need to train people to think for themselves and to learn how to learn and to decide what they want their life to be, and then build that life with the resources and the methodologies and the tools that they've been given to learn how to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've seen that at play. Like, so, OnTrack Coaches is our attempt to build something different. And
Yeah.
like, it's been a really, really cool experience. And we start with this premise, this, you're the captain of your fate. Like, you are the driver.
Yeah.
Our coaches are not, I say it all the time, like, I'm not your teacher, I'm not your boss, I'm not your parent, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm sitting in the driver's seat. You tell me where you want to get, and I'll give you the directions, right? But you're steering the wheel, and you're hitting the gas, you're hitting the brakes. So if you want to take a pit stop at Denny's, like, let's do it. You know what I mean? It's your call. And what we've seen is that kids, at first we set out to just help kids build executive functioning skills, learn how to manage their time, get their homework done. We wanted parents to stop having to be homework managers and just go back to being parents. And we've achieved that mission in this for the students that we've worked with. Really, really, really encouraging and gratifying, some of the stuff that we've seen. But the other thing we realized is, like, there's so much more opportunity to help kids really shape the mindsets and the attitudes to have a sense of efficacy and a growth mindset and a sense of value in what they learn. And so we're starting to, like, see kids transform on that. And the way we do it is, like, we ask them big questions.
Yeah.
Like, we let them choose too. So we have a list of 32 big questions, and these are big questions for kids and for adults. Like, I don't think there's a single question on the list that I don't ask myself all the time. Right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, the first one that kids always seem to pick is, how do I stop procrastinating? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the number one jam. It's the Billboard, top of the Billboard charts, baby. And we help them answer it. And we don't do it by telling them what to stop doing and start doing. We do it by asking a lot more questions and helping them build self-awareness. And through self-awareness, they build self-control. And if I could boil everything that we do down to two skills, it all comes down to two skills. If my education system that you asked me about had like a state standards, if we had the Common Core state standards, it would be a blessed document for teachers. There would be 2 lines. Student will be able to build self-awareness. Student will be able to develop self-control. That would be it. As we help kids know when you're procrastinating, what's going on with you, what's happening internally, what are your thoughts and feelings and physiology associated with that. And once you start to become aware of it and you can name it and recognize it and accept it and greet it as a buddy and say, like, hey, procrastination, you're here to help me manage unpleasant emotions, but I'm not going to let you drive this time. Mm-hmm. Then you can start to build self-control. And that's what we help kids do. And it's been some powerful stuff. So there's my little plug for OnTrack Coaches. I love it. It's my little baby. And it's been really cool to see what happens with kids when they start accepting that approach.
That's so huge. And again, this applies to everyone, not just kids. Self-control, that's the whole freaking deal, right? It is the only thing that you actually control in this entire world is you.
Yeah.
Your own behavior, your own mindset, your own attitude, your own actions. Like, that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have this illusion that we can control others or other, events. No, just no.
Yeah. And can I tell you that we start with that as kids, and we start with it in school, and then it affects every area of our lives forever. Like most of us go through life well into adulthood and all the way up with this idea that, like, either we can control other people's behavior or other people somehow can control us.
Yes.
And it when you start to break it down, it's not true. I mean, there have been people with literal guns to their head who have made different choices than the choices that the assailant wanted them to make.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not a stark example of what I'm talking about, I don't know what is. And man, if I could talk to every parent in America, that would be my message, is like, man, you can't control your kids. You can't do it. I see the effects of that all the time in our work. It's not good. Rarely is that like a nice, well-adjusted, kid who can go out and conquer their homework. Like, a lot of times when we dig down, that's tends to be a factor.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to hear some stories from your experience. I want to share one right now. You'll know who I'm
Please.
talking about, but I'm going to call him Ivan so we don't have
Yes.
any embarrassment out here. So I was working with a kid this session, Ivan, who at first it was like pulling teeth to get him to even just show up to a one-on-one or a huddle. He just obviously had been kind of strong-armed into this situation, did not want to be there, did not see any benefit in this for himself. And so on your advice, I actually just sort of straight up said to him, hey, it kind of seems like you're not really into this. Can we talk about that? And he said, I just don't know what I want to do. And so then we had this conversation, this very open, authentic conversation about like, well, let's get rid of all the shoulds. Let's get rid of everybody, what everybody else thinks might be a good idea for you, or you might be interested in, and just get down to, well, if it was up to you, what would you do all day long, right? If your parents had nothing to say about it, what would you just spend your day doing? Well, and it turned out there are these stories on the internet that he absolutely loved, and he would just spend all day reading those stories. And so we ended up coming up with an idea around those stories, and he got so into the project. Like, he was one of my top students from then on, showing up early, asking me a ton of questions. He had like lists of questions every day ready to go.
I love it.
Just complete 180 transformation. And again, it's just that recognition of like self-awareness, A, and B, giving him the power to be like, hey, if this isn't working for you, don't do that. But let's find something that does work for you. And then ask him the question of like, what would that be?
It's shocking, the light bulb that goes off in kids' heads when you put that in front of them. It's shocking. They're like, wait a minute. I can do whatever I want. Like, yeah, dude, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. I mean, I love that story. Like, Ivan ended up making a bomb ass video. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. And he wouldn't, I mean, kudos to you. Like, he wouldn't have done that. I think well, I'm curious, what do you think? What was the magic? What was the secret sauce to that? Like, how did that happen?
Well,
If we
again,
could bottle that, we could sell it for $1 billion. Like, what happened?
I think first of all, it was just the acknowledgement of just that there's a problem with someone telling you, hey, this is what you should do or you should be interested in. Just recognizing that like anybody's trying to strong arm you into anything is like, no, I get to decide. I am in charge here. And just the like you said, respect for his autonomy by saying, it doesn't seem like this is working for you. Is that true? And allowing him to take a moment to take stock and go, is this something I'm interested in? Could this be something I'm interested in? And then actually asking the question of like, what would really get you excited about this? And having him really ask himself that question honestly. Again, any person of any age, when you actually ask that question of like, what are you actually interested in? What would you actually spend your time doing if you didn't feel like you had to make a living doing this thing, right? How would you live? What would you spend your time creating? That's what I do. That's like what I spend my days doing, is giving people permission to find those things and actually spend time and energy on them. But I think we've spent, like you said, so much of our lives being taught that no, your time is not your own. No, you don't get to decide these things for yourself. That we have lost the art of self-awareness and self-control, deciding what do I want? Where's my desire? And how do I get myself from here to there? Which is such a tragedy.
Yeah.
Because
it does a lot of harm.
Yeah. that's our biggest thing as humans, right? That we get to write our own story.
Yeah. And I think like it's hard to approach something like that. Like in this case, like we had the freedom to approach students that way because this was our program that we developed. This is a company I'm a co-founder of. We had the freedom to say, make whatever you want. Like that's what we're here to do. A lot of people don't feel that kind of freedom. Like, I've worked with a lot of educators who are getting pressure from all over the place. They get pressure from the school district and their principals and parents, and those people in turn get pressure from their superiors who get pressure from up the ladder. And, parents are the same thing. They're scared a lot of times, like they're worried about their kids. We don't know what the future is going to look like, what jobs are there going to be. People are nervous. And so that anxiety makes it really hard to ask the question openly of like, what's going on here for you? What do you want to do? Because the idea, I think, in a lot of our heads, like, and I can feel this as a teacher, I felt this all the time. What if their answer is not the answer that I need it to be? So what if, I'll give you an example. I had a student I was coaching, and he was 7th grader. And we got to this point. It was the same thing. It was like pulling teeth. He was not into it. Didn't really want to try what we were working on. So at one point, we just got into a conversation. I just openly asked, like, why are you here? Why are you don't seem like you want to be working with me in academic coaching. So why are you here? And he was like, well, my mom's making me. I was like, okay, sure. Why? Well, because she wants me to not fail. I said, okay, do you want to not fail? And he was like, I don't really care because they're going to move me to 8th grade no matter what. Like the grade, they even said they're not even going to count the grades. And like, okay, so that right there, many of us, a previous version of me would have had, I had a heart attack right there. Like, oh no, he figured it out. It's almost like, oh no, he's seen behind the curtain. He knows that these grades don't matter. Man, sidebar, I never realized how meaningless grades were until I started giving them out. Like,
right?
If I'm being honest, and I don't think there's a teacher in the world who would disagree with this, sometimes the grade is about your academic performance, and sometimes it's about what I had for lunch. And you know what I mean? It's hard to separate it, right? So he figured that out. It would be easy for me to then look at that as a failure. Like, oh no, I failed to reach this kid. But in reality, it's like, well, he's self-aware. He's aware of the circumstances. He knows what he wants, and he's made his choice. It's not the choice that I would love for him to make, but at least, like, I still see that as a success because he figured out in that moment, like, oh, I had the power to choose what I do. And then we were able to have a conversation about, like, once we got that out of the way, we were then able to actually get down to like, okay, what do you want?
Yeah.
You want to be a computer programmer. You want to be a video game designer. Okay, cool. What do you need to know in order to do that? How can we set you up to, right? It freed us up. There was a lot of freedom in that moment of honesty. Like that just allowed us to then get to the heart of it. And I think for parents and teachers who feel this pressure all the time, it's hard to like let it go there because you don't, a true question, a real question, you don't know the answer to. And that's scary when it feels like your livelihood's depending on it or your child's happiness is riding on it. Like, and far be it for me to lecture parents. I don't have kids, but I've seen this dynamic with students that I've taught and their parents, and it seems to be really prevalent. Like, what if they tell me that they don't care about getting good grades and they want to go to be, a street artist, and that's what they really want to do with their lives? What do I do with that? That's scary. And so we don't ask the question. I think we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to help kids learn like the power that they have over their choices. Because more often than not, like, it'll be okay. It's hard to see it. It will be okay. Because guess what? They're going to realize that being a street artist is really hard. And unless you're one of a very small number of people, that is not your life's calling, and they're going to choose something else. It will be okay, but it's hard to let it get there.
Yeah. And I also think a lot of times kids and adults will say they don't care about something if it feels too hard to change it. They'll just decide like, well, I can't change it, so therefore I don't care, whatever. And once they realize that they actually do have more control over it than they think they do, suddenly they start to care about it a little bit. But again, if you're not pushing that onto them, if you're just allowing them to decide, like, do I care about this? And just have that self-awareness of like, why don't I care about this? Could I care about this? What would make me care about this? That's when the wheels start to turn and things start to become possible.
Absolutely. Like, and I think like for kids, the only way that they're really going to ask questions, like really ask questions of adults, is when they've tried what they thought was going to work and it really did not work out well. Like,
Mhm.
again, scary to let that happen, but it's sort of a necessary part of the process. Like, I all the time will think I've got it handled. For example, with Studio B, we were making original content, and we made some sketch comedy content. I'm blessed to have a stand-up comedian for a brother, and he's currently the reigning funniest person in Austin, Andrew Murphy. I'll plug him. He's great,
Woo!
and yeah, he's awesome. And so he and some of his buddies came, and we made some original sketches. Well, I thought I knew what I was doing with the editing, right? And then I started editing and it was bad and I didn't know what I was doing and it was stressful. And that's when I started really reaching out for help, like from other people, from YouTube. Like, okay, wait a minute, how do I do this? I didn't get to the point of genuine curiosity about how to succeed until I had tried it on my own and failed. And like, that's the human learning process. Like, that's the mind at work
Yes,
right there. If I never get a chance to actually fail, I'm never going to be curious about how to succeed in the first place.
that's exactly right. And again, I think that's what people walked away from Studio B learning. And that's huge to me.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you said that, one of the final sessions, kids were like, oh, I learned that if I don't know how to do something, I can figure it out. That's incredible. That's incredible. So many kids don't feel that way. They don't think that's true. Like, that they can figure it out. They can. Everybody can. You can learn anything. You really can. And so, like, if we can get kids to start to believe that and understand that, like, I'll retire a happy man if I can help some kids start to figure that out, and it goes into adulthood. And I think, like, the stakes here are really high. That's the other thing that, it's what drives me to do this work. Like, it's hard. Being an educator is hard. Being a teacher was really hard. Running a company is hard. Working with kids is hard always. The thing that drives me is, like, the stakes are so high. Like, imagine a future in which every kid, I'll just keep it to America because that's what I know. I just haven't traveled abroad very much, right? I'll keep it here. Like, imagine if every American young person graduated our system and they had a feeling like they had really gotten to do some deep learning, and they realize that it gives them more freedom. It gives them more power and influence over their world. It helps them build relationships where belonging can flourish. It helps them have fun. Like, learning is fun. You should check out Choice Theory by William Glasser. Phenomenal book. I recommend it. He talks about all this stuff. Like, imagine a future in which kids had experienced that and it changed the way they operate, and they were operating out of genuine curiosity with the belief that everything is going to be okay, that they can figure it out, that, anxiety is, the fear that we can't figure it out, but I got this, right? Imagine that. Like, that's a future where the planet doesn't have to burn, Audrey.
Yeah.
That's a
Mhm.
future where democracy does not have to crumble to authoritarianism. Like, that's a future where we can disagree without hating each other. That's a future where, suicide and substance abuse don't have to be some of the leading causes of death among young people. Like, seriously, like, not to downplay any of those issues because they're all really complicated and really serious and really hard. But I genuinely believe at the root of all of it is this feeling that I need somebody else to control the situation because I can't, or I want to control other people because otherwise they're going to do the wrong thing, the bad thing. I think that puts us in all kinds of knots and tangles and problems. And, like, if we want to really, like, continue to flourish as a species on this planet, we're going to need to figure some of this out in a big, broad way. So it's not like the stakes are small. It's this is the big time.
I think that's a perfect transition to this exercise that I love to do here, a little
Oh
visualization.
boy. Oh
So
boy.
can we, yeah, let's take a
Are
drink.
we about to do some real live
Mm-hmm.
creation coaching right now? Am I about to get a free session? I
Oh,
didn't know
heck
this was
yeah.
part of the deal. Okay.
Oh, surprise. All right.
Mm.
So what we're going to do, just shake things out here. I want you to close your eyes. Take in a nice deep breath. And as you breathe in, I want you to see colored light come into your body, and just tell me what color it is.
All right. I'm a strongly not a visual person. I'm a very auditory person. So this is a stretch for me and I like it. I am seeing purple and red light.
Nice. All right. So now what I want you to do, I'm going to I have a magic wand over here, right? And in a moment, I'm going to wave that magic wand. And as soon as I do, everything that you deeply desire, let's say about the educational system, will come to pass. So now everything is exactly as it should be. In this ideal, perfect world, I want you to tell me what's the first thing you see. Magic wand waved. What do you see?
You know what? I'm picturing the face of one of my students, a former student of mine. I had her when she was in 7th grade, and I'm picturing her and her classmates like laughing and talking in a classroom and having fun.
Perfect. And so I want you to kind of see that she's looking over at you and you kind of share a moment. And she's giving you this look that tells you that she gets it. She really gets it. Everything that you've been trying to instill in her, she's got this. And how does that feel?
Oh man, I mean, it's it feels good. I don't have a stronger word than that. It feels good. It feels gratifying. You know what it feels like? It's like relief.
Yeah. So now I want you to go someplace that's kind of your happy place, someplace that just feels really perfect to you, and describe it to me.
Oh man, that's got to be Stump Pond in Willett, New York. I grew up in upstate New York. My great grandparents owned a cottage on this little man-made pond, and we used to spend tons of time there when I was a kid. It's like there's no cell service for a long time. There was not even a landline. It's like sort of disconnected. Tons and tons of happy memories with my family, surrounded by loved ones. That's my happy place.
What does it sound like there?
Oh man, it's so you can hear the wind on the pond water, right? There's a little water sound. There's a lot of geese in that area,
Mm-hmm.
so you hear a lot of geese. And then in me for me, the sound I hear is like the family laughing in the other room.
Mm. And what can you smell there?
Well, geese turds for sure.
For
It's a
sure.
common
Oh,
scent.
yeah.
And then I don't know how to put this, but there's a certain smell of like tall grass. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about? Like tall
Yeah.
grass has an aroma, and that is yes, that is prevalent for sure. For sure. And then
Beautiful.
also like this cottage was wood, right? It's like a just all wood thing that, my great grandpa built it, by hand with his brothers. And so it like the smell of kind of old wood.
So something happens while you're there that is just unexpectedly delightful. You did not see this coming, but it's so great. What is it?
My wife shows up.
Aw.
Oh, I know. I hesitated to say it because it sounds manufactured. That's it. She's never
So
been there.
she shows up and she's got some great news. What is it?
Oh boy. Oh geez. I don't know. Is there a way you can reframe that for me? Nothing popped
Sure,
in. My
sure.
my 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 walls are going up in case you can't tell. Let's
You
try to bring them down.
let's say instead you get some amazing news. Just something unexpectedly wonderful has occurred. You've got this great news. You didn't see this coming, but there's something great coming
Yeah.
ahead. What is it?
Oh man, I think it would be like I'm gonna get to do like a TED talk, or something
Yep.
like a public speaking thing where I kind of get to really like make my case, and it's
Yes.
going to be viewed by a lot of people, and it's an opportunity to like use that medium to try to influence how people think and behave, is particularly like people in education. I think that'd be it.
Yes. So you're being invited to do a TED talk. It's going to be international. There's going to be lots of, spotlight on you and on this issue that is so
Mm.
important to you. And you're surrounded by family. And so, how are you going to celebrate this great news?
We have this family game. It's a game called the Game of Things. Are you familiar? So fun. It's like really loose, open ended. But my mom's, the whole extended family, we love to play it together. Basically, it's like get a category, things you shouldn't do on your first day of work, and then everyone fills in anonymously a joke. It's an opportunity for us to all make jokes and laugh together. And then you got to go around and try to guess who said what. It is
Oh,
always a
that's so
blast,
fun.
always fun. We played it for long enough now that like my cousins and folks who were little babies when we started playing this are now grown adolescents themselves, and they can chime in and make their cringy, horrible jokes. And we all, I'm like, I remember that. So we would celebrate by eating some food, and then we would play that game.
That sounds fantastic.
Oh, and I'd
Well,
hug everybody too. Big hug.
yes, big hugs, lots of hugs. I love it. All right. So can come back to the present now and tell everyone at home where they can find out more about OnTrack Coaches and everything else that you're up to.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, you can check us out at ontrackcoaches.com. We offer individual coaching for kids like, middle school through college. So if you're hearing this and you're like, this sounds like this might be useful, we offer some nice, like some like free trial kind of stuff that you can check out. So that's the place to see it. And that's really right now in my life, that's where all my energy is going. So I don't have a second thing right now. It's
fantastic.
Like startup life, relatively new company. And that's where I'm pouring out.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Audrey.
What would you like everyone to walk away with? Your last thought, the big takeaway?
Oh boy. When you're talking to young people, your words matter a lot. I would plead with you to try every day to move a little bit more towards being a scientist instead of a judge. What I mean by that is, a scientist asks questions and learns and makes hypotheses and tests them out. And then when they see what happens, they draw some conclusions. A judge evaluates as soon as possible what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what they should be saying, what they shouldn't be saying. And if you approach, I'm telling you right now, if you approach kids as a scientist and take a genuine interest in what they have to say, even if it's weird or, a little worrisome or whatever, like if you really give them space to speak, like you will not be sorry. Like they have some incredible things to say, and it's an incredible thing. So like, I think that's the big takeaway is like, instead of trying to control and evaluate, like be curious, be open, ask questions, and just like listen to whatever it is that they have to tell you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Audrey. This was awesome.